that Atlanta game. I don't know if you remember that or not, but Kobe came in, was the first one off the bench, went out there, got his first sack, got his first pick in the game, almost ran it back for a touchdown and pulled his hamstring on the very next play. Had to miss some time, coming back. I think it was a hamstring. Don't quote me on that one. It was something, but he missed some time, and then that provided opportunity for DK to step in. DK stepped in, played well a lot of time there, and did some really good things for us. And then, Kobe came back. We were to ease him back into the process, got some of our starters back, played those guys. Kobe got his next opportunity, and he's done nothing to go out there and absolutely shine and show some of that brilliance that he showed in training camp. Some of the things he did in training camp, picking off the ball, covering the best wideout in the National Football League and Cooper Cup, at least last year, arguably, however you want to look at that. And all those things just jumped into the scene. And then when he came in, we had no idea that he could play nickel, the star position, and he was able to go into the star position, really impress his coaches, and do some of those things really well, which was exciting. Knowing that he was an outside guy, he really bought into that system, really got into that role, and owned it. And now he's out there, and he's just kind of been able to be flexible and move like a vet. And he's growing every single week and learning from his guys. And he's having fun with Jalen. I think Jalen's having fun with him, getting him to play around a little bit with some of his lineup, some of the things that he's doing. It's been fun.
The starting combo of him and Troy and Jalen, not just the combination of sort of the veteran savvy and also
Sure.
a rookie who can really make plays on the ball, but also the way that they're all so interchangeable and they can all play that star. Does that help expand opportunities for what you guys can do in your coverage structures?
It certainly does, but that's kind of the trait we look for. When we went out and got Kobe, I think the saying in the draft was he reminds us of Troy Hill. It was like a smaller guy, quick, make some plays, ball skills, things of that nature. And when you say that, you're starting to see some of those plays come out, some of those things come out, and some of the wherewithal of playing in the system and doing some of those things, which is great. And we love that. But, those guys being interchangeable is probably more fun to be able to have the ability to move Jalen around, to be able to go play star, be able to play the boundary, be able to play the field, be able to follow a guy when those things are called upon. And it has been absolutely outstanding. And we got a lot of guys like that. DK doesn't go inside as much, but David Long certainly has the ability to go in there and done some things like that. But this guy being the young draft pick this year, finding bright spots within the season, and that's one of them.
What was it like seeing Morrell have the game he did last summer?
I'm glad you said his name because I would have struggled with it. No, Laurel Murchison went out there and it was fun. It was kind of exactly what we talked about on Saturday night, or Saturday morning, I should say. When I go over my 98-yard drive, and I just looked at him and I said, "Hey, man, nobody knows you. We barely know you. Go have fun, right? Let's go prove Vrabel wrong." I told him. I think I was made a joke that way. Yeah, nothing against Vrabel. I just was taking a shot at the team we claimed him from, right? And the team we got him off waivers from, and it was like a lot of fun for that young man, and it was able to be expressed in his play and how he went out there and his ability to absolutely capture his teammates, and that's different. And I give less credit to Laurel than I would give to the guys that embraced him and his ability to put him within their rooms and have the ability to go out there and find a guy to go have success. And I love that. That is the sign of people knowing what we're about. And that's the culture that's been built here and the standard that's been set with that ability. And you're going to get fined definitely for blinging in my meeting.
When you talk about some of the younger players, how much of an impact does Aaron have on them even when he's not on the field?
Aaron has an impact on any and everybody that's associated, affiliated, or around the Los Angeles Rams. His presence is felt when he comes into the building, the ability to want to be around him or to play up to that standard or the standard that's been set in that room, that dog work mentality that is so famously claimed by, got to say, my guy, Eric Henderson. But, that room breeds that type of tolerance and it breeds that type of demanding of excellence, so to speak. And when the guys go in there, it's certainly led through Aaron, and it's certainly led through the coaches. But those guys got to live up to those standards, and it's fun to watch. Just being around an individual, you got to see. I spend all my time with D-line individual because they're fun to be around and how they work and the stuff that they're able to do.
Go ahead, Gary.
Say what?
It's the first person ever nice to you, Gary.
What do you see from Justin Herbert? What makes him difficult to match up against, and then also if you could kind of expand on the receiving core and Austin Eckler?
Just talk about their offense, period, huh, Gary? They are explosive. He is the young prototype quarterback, which everybody's looking for, has the ability to use all his across-the-board read, so to speak, as far as that system goes, the West Coast, being able to start on one side, work all the way across the board, go through the progression of the process. He's also able to buy time and make time with his feet. He's athletic enough to get out of the pocket. He's athletic enough to stay in the pocket. They can move the pocket with him with designed runs. They can move the pocket with him with undesigned things. He is the prototypical new type of guy that we're watching, we're loving, and we're starting to see that he's grown into. I've only had the experience of playing against him once when he was a rookie. Had a little bit of success that day against him, and hopefully we can duplicate some of that success. But I've definitely seen him develop and grow to one of the guys that we all talk about in this league and what they want him to be, right? And, you know, you get a chance to coach that type of guy. It's the reason everybody is looking to that team as the up-and-comers, right? And then you talk about the people around him. And you can't say enough about Austin Eckler. I'll start there first just because I don't know anybody that's been in the end zone more than him. And his ability to get in the end zone, whether it's running or whether it's receiving, has been absolutely outstanding, and he's fun to watch. And he comes from like that kind of bottom surface, right, where nobody knew who he was, and he definitely must wear that around on his sleeve or whatever the case may be, because it looks like it when he plays. And then the receiver coach, starting with Keenan and those guys and what they're able to do. You know, I've always had so much respect for Keenan and what he is and who he is as a player, his ability to win in any situation, and he's been in and out of the lineup, and his ability to develop his guys. Like we talked about Aaron. You see those young guys 1-5, you know, coming along and starting to do some of the things that he does and mimic some of his skill set. And it's becoming a really talented. It is a really talented and definitely offense. You got to definitely go prepare for and be ready to deal with. Not even to mention they're studying the outside 81.
Just a couple more. Raheem with the 6 sacks against the Broncos. I think that was
It was a great game plan by me. No, no. The guys went out and executed. They played hard. They did all the things that you want to do. To use a Belichick, they did their job, right? And they were able to rush together. They were able to rush as a unit. I was able to show that in our meetings this week and how that pays off for people. You know, every once in a while you have a guy who makes an outstanding move, right? He just absolutely physically dominates a player and wins, and we've seen it a lot with Aaron, right? We've seen it in flashes last year with Vaughn. We've seen it before with Flo. But when guys rush as a unit, and people do exactly what they're taught to do, whether it's when we're doing our walkthrough structure or we're doing our practice structure, and then you get those guys out of the game to execute those things and that talent, that's when stuff happens. You know, we talked about it before with turnovers, right? Where we had a week here, we couldn't get a turnover. We talked about technique and opportunity meeting. Well, there's no different when it comes to getting sacks, right? There's technique, there's opportunity, there's execution. When those things meet, you get production on the quarterback.
I think that from a mental, emotional standpoint, is this week any harder knowing they're in the playoffs, you guys can't make it?
It didn't get any harder till you just asked that question. But Kurt, honestly, it's not about anyone else. You know, I've kind of been on this theme the last couple of weeks anyway, but they're gray matter, right? Those people don't matter. Who we play against, some of those things, and not in a disrespectful manner. It's more about, it's about us. And it's about the people that we're coaching and the ability to pour into these young guys and the ability to pour into some of our older guys, right? You know, I'm having just as much fun coaching Bobby as I would if we were on a playoff run, you know, because my message and my theme to these guys is we're going to be relevant again. And when we are, these are the things you want to think about when you're moving towards that direction and establishing your roles and what you're going to do to make us successful, right? And everybody's looking at it, right? You got Les in his office. He's the genius behind it all, putting people together, going to get me Warren Sapp off the waiver wire, right? And then you got Sean McVay, and he's evaluating guys and the talent and the people that's around us. And then you got myself and our coaches all pouring into these players, and, like, that's fun, right? So go ahead and be all, oh, woe was me because we're not in the playoffs right now if you want to. But my direction is, man, when I'm relevant again, you'll see.
Okay, so elephant in the room, there's 2 weeks left.
Sure.
And you say, we'll be relevant again.
Yeah.
There's an opening in Denver.
Yeah.
There'll be other openings. Do you let your mind go there?
No, Kurt. You know why? Because, like, you can't do that to yourself, right? And you become bitter, you become angry, you become aggressive about, like, hey, oh, woe is me, I can't get a job in the National Football League, right? That stuff happens, and you get requested to interview, you go put your best foot forward, and you do the best job you can do. But let's think about this for a second. I am one of 32. I got the best job in the National Football League and the people that I work with. I am very excited about that.
Raheem, what are you seeing in Ernest Jones in his play this season?
You know, Ernest had the unfortunate and fortunate ability to play with Bobby, right? Because Ernest, when we drafted him, you know, like Kobe, he mimics Troy. Ernest, we thought, mimicked Bobby in Seattle, and we thought he would bring us the stuff that Bobby's been able to bring to us this year. So now moving Ernest kind of out of that role and putting him into a different role, which we really didn't have established for him, but he's the best player to go do it. You move him into that role, you let Bobby lead, you let Bobby teach. Hopefully he's handing him the torch at one point, a la Magic Johnson to Michael Jordan kind of a deal. And, like, he's been able to go out there and play and get experience, right? And it's kind of changed who we are a little bit more nickel, a little bit more two-backer defenses. Some of those things have happened. Some have been more of a learning curve for Ernest. But a long story short, I think Ernest has gone out and given us exactly what he is: energy, physicality, brute toughness, the guy you want to put out there because he's above the neck, mentally sharp. And the guy's going to continue to get better throughout his career. And I see, like, nothing but greatness when that torch is passed and whenever it is passed for him moving to what Bobby's been able to bring to us, what they've been able to help each other with, if that makes sense.
Last one, real quick.
Don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but
Too late.
when you took this over this defense in 2020 or 2021, there was a sort of a malleability to the scheme and the philosophy of it that could be dependent on how players moved it forward, how the coordinator moved it forward. Are there any specific facets of where you guys are at now versus what the foundation of this thing looked like that you're particularly proud of, or that you've been very invested in?
I kind of taken over for a bunch of really good football coaches, starting with Wade, then going to Brandon, and having the ability to add your little stuff to it, to make it creative, to make it a little bit of yours, right? And then be able to also steal from some great coaches that you're able to follow and be around, and also still study, right? And I got so much respect for what Brandon did when he got here, and to be able to come in here and learn the language of the other 50 people, as opposed to making people learn some language that I was so driven on saying, that it's been fun, right? And it's still that way. It's still malleable. It still has the ability to change and be growing and grow and do different things and have the ability to change what the look looks like, whether it be a shell defense with vision or whether it be a crank defense when you're playing the San Francisco 49ers, you got to get in the box and stop the run, right? We can do whatever we want to do based on terms, words, the people that we have, the ability that we got. And those things are fun and to be around. And, like, it'll do nothing but get better with the people that's coming back, with the people that's here, the people that we're developing, and the guys that we got in the building and going out and searching for new talent.
All set?
Thanks, Raheem.
Have a good one, guys.
Kicked their tails a couple times, but it's all right. No, it's good. You guys at Maine, yeah. Yeah. What's up, guys? How's it going?
Liam, with
Yeah.
Cam Akers, what is he doing like the past couple weeks?
Just kind of what I reiterated, from last week. It's the attention to detail. You can see him, like I had mentioned from the week before, playing and being detailed without the ball in his hands, with his eyes in pass protection, with his check downs. When all those things are in alignment, typically good things happen for Cam. Usually when any player is like not very detailed or lacks a little detail in some things, their overall game is going to probably display some of those things. He has been locked in, really for the last month or so of really just on it with his job, his responsibilities, being a pro, and then you just kind of see him playing. You just really see him playing the game the way that we've gotten to see him play when he's at his highest performance. Really happy for him. His demeanor, the way he's going about his business. Really happy for Cam and some of the success that he's been having recently.
Rob Higginstein was here the last time you were here.
Right.
How has he, I don't want to say grown.
Yeah.
Because he's always been this guy. But
For sure.
What have you seen from him in terms of keeping people together on the show?
Consistency. He's, obviously we had Witt last year, who was more that vocal leader. Rob has really been the type of guy that does it all by example. He comes to work every single day. He asks great questions in the meeting space, on the practice field. There is definitely not a more conscientious player on our offense than Rob Havenstein. I mean, it is the detail that he takes, the pride that he takes. It's stuff that we use as examples, not just up front. We can show our skill players his detail on, fitting a block, because it might be something that a receiver might have to do or a tight end might have to do at some point in terms of fundamentals, technique, on your job. I mean, there's just nobody better. So, Rob doesn't feel like he needs to be anybody else but himself, which is really cool to see. He's very comfortable in his own skin. He knows kind of the type of leader that he is and the impact that he has on our younger players. One of the best guys in our locker room. Really happy for him.
What was it? Told us that one of the reasons you wanted to come back was to learn. What do you feel like?
Oh, that's a great one. Sometimes you go through adversity or you come into a situation and it gets flipped on its head a little bit. And you're always kind of prepared as a coach or as a player, because you can always win or lose. You have a 50-50 chance each week. But it's the week in, week out, and some of the struggles that we have endured. But then you go and have the game like Baker did against the Raiders, which a lot of us would, agree that was unbelievable, almost miracle-esque. And then you go into a game like last week and score the most points that you've scored since arguably one of the best games, in football history, of the 2018 Kansas City game. So within the struggles and the adversity, this game is so much fun for nights like that Thursday night game. Days like Sunday, it all puts it in perspective for you that it's really not always about the result, but the result of winning feels a lot better than losing. And you learn to adjust, adapt, and I think that's probably the biggest thing for us over the last couple weeks is truly adjusting to your personnel, doing what your guys are best at. And it really comes down to that. It's not really about the plays, it's about the players. And I think this season, more than any I've ever been a part of, has really shown that.
What was that like on that last week?
Yeah.
After so many
Tough
weeks
loss.
of not being able to score points,
Right.
even with the miracle win,
Right.
to actually
Yeah.
see that all come together for you personally and for
Right.
you guys as a staff after that game.
Yeah, I mean, even during, right? I mean, we get the couple of the turnovers. Like, wait, what is like? We played complimentary football. I mean, that's really what stuck out. You're like, oh my goodness, we got an interception and we scored 2-3 plays later. It was like, whoa, it's a little different now. We've just, unfortunately, throughout the season, we just have not really put those things together. The defense gets a great stop or gets field position and we go backwards, or we have to punt, and it just is extremely deflating. We never really felt that. Obviously, felt that way on this past Sunday. I think as a staff, especially on offense, things were going really well. The defense was getting the field position. Our players were playing their tails off. You never felt like as a staff you were like, we need to make a play call. Like we need to truly come up with a play or call a play that is going to give us a spark or create an explosive. A lot of the game was, I don't know, I'm not minimizing the job Sean did or we did as a staff, but it was very much in alignment with, let's just call what we are really confident with and our players know best. And you saw, I mean, the execution level was higher. And so that was really cool to feel as a staff. We just never kind of felt, I guess, anxious or pressing. And our players were the ones that we fed off of on Sunday, which was really cool.
As good as Justin Herbert is, it feels like their defense is carrying them. They're coming off a 6-sack game.
Yeah.
Are they peaking, or what are you seeing in the past?
Totally. Obviously I have a ton of respect for Brandon and being here with him in 2020. They do some really good things from a structure standpoint. It is very similar to what, he had done here, but he's also evolved and he's also kind of tweaked some things a little bit different than maybe even the structure we saw from E last week. So it's a little bit different, and they play their tails off. They can rush the passer, even though I know they've had some struggles, they say, rushing, but there's some pockets that are really getting dirty. They play their butts off, and it's really kind of, it's cool to see. It's what you would expect from Brandon, from those guys, and they have some really good players. So I agree with the kind of point you're saying is like they are peaking a little bit on defense, you can see, and I think, getting some guys back, things like that will really help. But it'll be a challenge, but it's definitely one that we're looking forward to.
There's a pretty stark difference in some of the language you guys were using at the beginning of the season. We have to set our guys up for more success.
Right.
We have to put our players in better positions. And the language you're using now, which is we did the things that our players are best at.
Right.
How do you carry the ladder? How do the decision makers and game planners on
Yeah.
this team carry the ladder into the future?
It's kind of like Sarah, like learning, right? You're learning from each experience, and as coaches, your thought process is always to problem solve. It's my job, our job to solve the problem, to put our players in the best position. Well, sometimes when you overdo that and you get the look that you're hoping for, but you get sacked, or you think you're hunting up the exact beater and something bad happens, it's deflating. It's frustrating. Whereas when you trust your plan, you trust the plays, you trust the players, and it might not be the perfect call, the perfect situation, but there's an element to these guys. They're pros, they're players, they've been doing this for a long time. It doesn't always have to be perfect. It's a very imperfect game that you want to try to create clarity and all that for, but I think it's that balance of, all right, let's make sure we have what we truly think can beat this defense in some schematic plays, but then let's just go in with what we know is sound against this structure and let our players just go play. I think it sometimes lets them have a little bit more creativity within their games and allow them to play a little bit more freely.
When you think about Brandon, the time that you knew him,
Yeah.
what do you remember most about him?
Details, extremely detail-oriented, worked very hard, and what I always respected about Brandon was his knowledge of the offensive side of the ball. He played quarterback. He had coached on the offensive side, I believe, early in his career. And I also, respected that he kind of came up in the ranks from Division III, moved his way on up. He had a lot of respect for the game of football, a lot of respect for our, for the players. And I always, really enjoyed talking ball with him in terms of his knowledge of the game, both offensively, defensively, some of his personnel conversations that we had. So those are the things that definitely stick out.
What about his personality?
He's just a sharp, tight, he's a little bit more different than Ra, just different. Brandon had a way to get guys to buy in and embody his defense in a short period of time when he came here the first time. They bought into that system pretty quickly. And I think that similar to Rob Havenstein, right, different than Witt. very different in that way, where Roz, indifferent than Brandon is, leading by example, truly more so the scheme he understood, the players bought in because it was working. I think that was probably a little bit of the difference there. Cool. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.